Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and I'm here to review the new action film, The Second. And yes, this is named after the Second Amendment, and you're not surprised why after watching this movie and how heavy-handed all the messaging is about the Second Amendment. And this is directed by Ryan Phillippe, and who has mostly in his filmography a lot of types of straight to VOD or streaming action movies, so not really a surprise going into this film. What do you expect? And it's one of those kinds of films where it's like, oh, it's a middle-aged actor trying to revive things doing an action movie, and then I'm like, oh, it's Ryan Phillippe, he's not middle-aged, right? And then you look it up, and he's 46 years old, and you're like, when did Ryan Phillippe get to be 46 years old? But anyway, so he plays this Delta Force agent. In the beginning of the film, he is hired to protect the most on-the-nose Second Amendment supporting senator who wants to be president as, ever written into a movie, who's literally being interviewed to talk about his specific beliefs on the Second Amendment so the film can just explode that right out in front of you. And the beginning pieces of this film, you have this footage of aggressive Second Amendment protesters talking about how it's like shooting down the Second Amendment, the NRA and stuff like that. I'm like, the messaging needs to tone itself down a little bit because it's so in your face. And then the obnoxious heavy metal score going on, I'm just like, this, and you add on the cinematography that looks really bland and blah, and you know you're watching a really just thrown together action film. And in general, this isn't like you have Taken 3 where you have 16 shots in 2 seconds with Liam Neeson jumping over a fence because horribly edited. It's somewhere in the middle. This film can be just a throwaway hour and 35-minute dumb action movie, but if you look any deeper, from that beginning just obnoxious sledgehammer of an intro into what the thoughts on Second Amendment would be, all the way to the end, which is this most absurd cliffhanging ending that feels so out of nowhere that's just is this really trying to bait us into an immediately beginning sequel? And I'm just like, what is this? And you have this villain who's kidnapping a Supreme Court justice. He kidnaps his daughter, or attempts to at least, to try to make sure that he votes for the Second Amendment. And I'm just like, and then you have to hear this villain talk about how important the Second Amendment is, and I'm just like, why are you just reading talking point? That's basically what it felt like. And then there's some horrible dialogue. You have Casper Van Dyne, who is from Starship Troopers, who plays the heavy henchman guy who's leading this attack on a college campus to kidnap the Supreme Court Justice's daughter. And he had a line in here that was 3 people can hide a secret if 2 of them are dead. And he has these sunglasses on, this obnoxious suit on, he has a giant cane that he beats this guy to death with, and I'm just like, what is this movie? And after a while, Ryan Phillippe does a fine job playing this Delta Force agent, and he does the physicality well. There's some fun action, but the logic is so dumb because you have Ryan Phillippe and these 2 college students. Somehow the 2 college students are fighting equally back against these henchmen. It's just they've never picked up a gun before, and that becomes a whole entire theme of the film of the son, is he gonna get pushed to killing somebody? And I'm just like, oh my god. After a while, the second is just I would just want this to end. And if you just go in, you just want to watch an action movie, even though there's so many other ones you could just turn around and watch instead, you can watch it as a dumb action movie and get something out of it. The second you try to look at anything else, This movie just falls apart. So, I guess it depends on what your expectations are going into the second. But those are my thoughts on this film, which is streaming right now on Netflix. Let me know what you think, and let's talk some movies. But thank you as always for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.